So when I see Jordan Peele's name attached to a movie, I am automatically going to watch it. And that's not just because I like his movies. I've liked him since he was on Mad TV doing comedy. My favorite thing he's made is Key and Peele, but when I saw he was getting into horror, I was like, hell yeah! And his first two movies were bangers. Nope was kind of confusing, but when I saw that his production company was trying to get the rights to the horror movie Weapons, I'm like, whatever he has coming up next is about to knock the shit out of our butts. So when it was announced that Peele's very own Monkey Paw Productions would be producing the new horror movie Him, I'm like, finally, we're back, baby! But unfortunately, that was not the case, and this is the worst movie Jordan Peele has decided to attach his name to. So if you don't know what movie I'm talking about, Him is a horror movie about this college football player who goes and trains with this football legend in the hopes that he can get him ready to replace him as quarterback the next season when he's drafted. It stars Marlon Wayans and Tyreek Withers as Isaiah White, who is essentially the Black Tom Brady, having won 8 championships, and Cameron Cade, who is supposed to be the successor to Isaiah so long as he proves he has what it takes. It also stars Julia Fox, Tim Heidecker, and Jim Jeffries as Isaiah's wife, Cameron's manager, and Isaiah's personal doctor. And if you've seen the previews, you would have thought this was going to be some demonic possession type movie where this guy makes a deal with the devil to become the greatest football player of all time, only to realize the consequences outweigh the benefits. Well, it's not. It's probably one of the worst sports movies I have ever seen. I wouldn't even call it a horror movie because I'm still not sure what was supposed to scare me. But after seeing how bad this movie was, I went down to the Pirate Bay and Captain Jack Sparrow hooked me up with a copy of this movie to review, so excuse the quality. A pirate is very limited on what kind of camera they can get, if one at all. I had to explain to them what a camera was before they brought me one. They brought me back a live snake one time. They're like, is this a camera? No! But for those who aren't familiar with the lore of this channel, I was originally going to do movie reviews, but mix up their storylines until I realized that trying to take something that someone spent tens of millions of dollars to put in order, out of order, with just the power of iMovie is like trying to build a car with just a hammer. Yeah, you might be able to do it, but it's not going to be drivable. But with that being said, the movie reviews have not stopped, and yes, they're still illegal. So this movie starts out with a young Cameron Cade watching his favorite sports team, the San Antonio Savers, led by the 8-time champion Isaiah White. Now before we go any further, to avoid paying the NFL, not only do they not mention any NFL team, but they don't even say the words NFL. This movie's NFL is called the USFF. But as the game they're watching ends, they show that Isaiah was injured on the very last play, and they show it for a split second, but as you can see, this isn't something you're going to be rubbing dirt on. I also like how two completely different players broke their legs. Like from this top-down view, this is obviously a white guy with an arm sleeve and a QB wristband, but when they cut to him holding his leg, it's a black guy with no wristband. The dad then grabs his son's head and turns it back to the TV and says, "That's what real men do." I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about, Dad? He may be never able to walk again, and you're saying that's what real men do? You must be the biggest pussy in the world then. I'd never seen you break a bone in your life. Like imagine when Damar Hamlin had a heart attack while playing, your dad turns to you and says, see? He's not a bitch like you are. This movie then fast forwards 14 years, and Cameron Cade is now this highly touted prospect coming out of college, getting ready for the combine, when all of a sudden some fucking shaman appears right behind him and hits him over the head. But then it just cuts to him in the hospital talking to the doctor like this was just something normal that happened. Like, nah, doc, the fucking Zodiac killer's deranged brother's on the loose and he doesn't use a gun. But all Cameron's worried about is getting ready for the combine to show off his talents. And for those who don't watch football, the combine is a yearly event where the top college players show off their skills. Don't pay much attention to that though, because he never makes it, and instead his manager, played by Tim Heidecker, gets him a week-long training session with the man whose injury he was forced to watch over and over again, Isaiah White.
All you gotta do is go down there and train with him for a week.
And after accepting his deal, he gets brought to this remote compound in the middle of the desert, right next to where this cult hangs out. And these are supposed to be Isaiah's diehard fans who for some reason the driver knows by name.
Here's Marjorie.
Well, tell Marjorie she needs to back the fuck up, especially if she's gonna be spitting at me like a fucking xenomorph. I'm surprised that shit didn't melt the glass. But Cameron finally gets to meet Isaiah, and after a little introduction, they get straight to training. And this is one of the most awkward training montages I've ever seen. It kind of reminds me of that show All American, where you can tell these people are acting as football players and have never even so much as held an actual football. But like in the middle of their training, it shows them practicing this custom handshake, and it's like, you guys aren't even gonna play together. What are you doing? And then at the end, they let out this primal scream and then do some of the fakest laughing I have ever heard. That was the best take they had? That sounds like a scene out of The Room where the audio doesn't match up with the picture. And why is Marlon so happy? Maybe it's just because I'm not a gym bro, but I can't imagine any situation where you and your homie are screaming in the mirror flexing, and then at the end you guys are laughing, dapping it up. If I heard that in the gym, I'd be like, hey, can you guys keep it down? I'm trying to masturbate. But now we see Isaiah's doctor, Marco, played by Jim Jeffries, and right away he's like, get naked. And Cameron is like, what? And they're like, get naked. This is for your physical. And he's like, all right, I guess. And as he's being checked out, him and Isaiah start talking about their families and why they like football. But then all of a sudden, when the doctor's done, he's like, yeah, you're all good. And you can put some clothes on. I didn't say you have to get naked. And Isaiah's like, yeah, you fucking perv. You're acting like we asked you to get naked. And then Cameron gives them both this look like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Completely weird. Get dressed, please.
And this couldn't have been a joke either, because they clearly asked him to get naked twice.
Blinds off. You heard the man drop your jaws.
Like if they said, alright, it's time for your physical, and he gets naked without being told, then alright, yeah, that makes sense. But when you make it a point to have him get naked, even showing us his ass cheeks, only for you to have someone be like, what the hell are you even doing? Makes me think that he was sexually assaulted under the guise of a physical. It only gets worse from there when Isaiah's wife asks Cameron to shove this fucking gemstone up his butt.
Put it in your butthole, Cam.
Like her character is useless to the story. Like, you want to know how she dies? She trips and stabs herself in the neck. I guess though, because it's Julia Fox, that was her excuse to add her into scenes. Like, that gem is something she's promoting. Like, that's a product that she is selling, and they never talk about it again. Or the fact that she sells anything. Or the fact that she's an influencer that sells products you shove up your poop deck. Ironically, she's the comedic relief and not Marlon Wayans. Which is like, did I even use ironic in the right way? You know what I mean though. Making Julia Fox a funny character is like making a movie where Kevin Hart doesn't make one joke. But we're now 30 minutes into this movie, and they show us even more training. Only this time, when Cameron misses a pass, this guy gets hit in the face with a football that's being launched at him from this throwing machine. And after the first couple of misses, you see this guy is actually getting hurt. So you're like, hell yeah, death by football. Not what I expected, but I've been waiting long enough. Only he doesn't die and gets up laughing, thanking Isaiah for the opportunity. And you're like, why did the only white guy in the entire building get punished for everyone else's mistakes? Is this an allegory for slavery? I'm trying to get scared, dog, not feel white guilt. But guess what? They now show us more training. Only this time, as Cameron is about to get tackled, he lowers his helmet, literally giving the other guy brain damage, only for Isaiah to be like, I'm so proud of you. And then they start dancing over this guy having a seizure from his brain being turned into applesauce. And I double checked, this movie is not a comedy. Later on, as Cameron's in this sauna, the girl from earlier, Marjorie, somehow breaks into this specific room and tries to kill Cameron, only for him to choke her until she passes out. But then as Cameron turns around and notices Isaiah watching him, Marjorie wakes back up and then is grabbed by Isaiah, who then starts kissing her, only to throw her against the wall, killing her, and then those two white guys from earlier start freaking out. This isn't even scary, this is just weird, and not in a good way like Requiem for a Dream. Weird like Human Centipede. It then gets revealed to us that the whole time Cameron has been there, Isaiah and his doctor have secretly been giving him doses of blood that belonged to a player before him, and so on and so on. Basically, I guess a long time ago, someone discovered that this certain player's blood worked like super steroids, and they have been doing blood rituals with it ever since to see who is worthy of having this sacred blood inside their body. And for Cameron's final challenge, he has to kill Isaiah and prove he has what it takes. So they start fighting in these white football pants. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, obviously this is going to end with him walking out of the tunnel victorious. And the only reason I knew that beforehand is because this is the poster they've been advertising the movie with. And I'm like, well, this is the only time in the whole movie he's wearing those white pants, so I just put two and two together like the genius I am. When he does eventually walk out of the tunnel, Isaiah's wife is waiting for him to sign this contract. His manager is even a part of it, and reveals that they have been grooming this guy to be a football player for this team ever since he was a kid, like there aren't other athletes that are of age they could have done this to.
We groom known you since you were a child.
But after he refuses to sign this contract, he starts killing everyone, so Isaiah's wife is like, I guess I'll have to kill him myself. And then, like I said, she trips and then stabs herself in the neck. After Isaiah finally kills everyone though, he leaves his manager to be killed by Satan. There was never any mention of Satan before this, and like I said, it was revealed that the blood from a previous player gave them their powers. And it wasn't like they said this player was a demon. Other than this pentagram they have right here, there was nothing that would tell you that the devil would show up in this movie. And the ending shot as he's walking away makes no fucking sense. Like there are planes leaving a trail of red, white, and blue smoke. This movie didn't even mention America once or even show that this guy was patriotic other than showing us one picture in the very beginning of his dad being in the service. But like seeing this wasn't gonna make you remember that one picture, and it doesn't even show him going to the NFL. He just murdered like 10 people, so I doubt he's even gonna get drafted now. But regardless, that is how the movie ends. And I'm starting to wonder if Jordan Peele actually saw this, or did he just see who was in it and was like, hell yeah, I'll produce this, because this was literal shit from a butt. This is a stain on Jordan Peele's legacy. Like this has a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. And look, even one of the reviews say, it appears Jordan Peele may have let other producers do most of the heavy producing lifting, if there's even such a thing, because Peele's signature touches and nuanced storytelling have been gorely savage, not unlike the characters in the film, or this review. A football-themed movie like him coming out just as the football season is ramping up would seem to be perfect timing, but the story doesn't succeed as either a commentary on the sport or a type of horror film. Like this whole movie is about Cameron spending a week with this great football player in order for him to make it to the pros. And the trailer makes it seem like Marlon's character is the devil who he has to face in order to get what he wants. But it's none of that. I literally watched a guy practice for more than half of the movie. There's not even an NFL player that makes a cameo. And the funniest part about this movie getting negative reviews is that Marlon Wayans is trying to compare this movie to White Chicks and Scary Movies, saying both of those movies had bad reviews when they came out, but now they're cult classics. And it's like, yeah, because White Chicks and Scary Movie were both funny when they were trying to be. Him is trying to be this psychological sports horror when it's really the worst training video anyone has ever put out. Like they're really tricking people into watching this by saying it was produced by Jordan Peele, because this is not a Jordan Peele movie at all. Hopefully his next movie is something he actually wrote and not just something he attached his name to. Until then, peace.